Somewhere in the 2nd century, at the height of the Roman Empire, the most powerful man in the known world kept a private journal. He commanded armies. He presided over courts. He managed an empire that stretched from Scotland to Syria. The journal was never meant to be read. It was written for no one, not for his subjects, not for history, not even for his closest advisors. Just a man, alone with his thoughts, trying to figure out how to live well inside a life he hadn't chosen. We still read it today, and the reason we do is that he was asking questions that haven't aged a single day. Questions like, why does peace always feel one step ahead of us? Why do we keep reaching for the next thing, convinced that this time it will be enough? Because there is a fantasy most of us carry quietly, that somewhere, just past the next achievement, the next destination, the next version of our lives, things will finally feel settled. We don't say it out loud, but we live as if it's true. We chase the milestones. We book the trip. We refresh the notifications. And when the thing we wanted arrives, there's a moment where it actually works, where the noise goes quiet. And then, without warning, the mind finds us again. The frustrating part isn't that this happens once, it's that it keeps happening, no matter how much we achieve, no matter how far we travel, no matter how much approval we collect. We change the scenery. We change the title. We change the people around us. And the feeling follows us anyway, like a shadow that adjusts to every new light. Most of us respond to this the same way. We assume the problem is that we haven't found the right thing yet, that the next milestone will be the one that finally holds. So we go looking. Think about a man who spent years building toward a life that looked, from the outside, like everything. The career took off. The status followed. There were mornings he'd catch himself thinking, genuinely, I made it. And yet those mornings never lasted. By afternoon, there was always something unresolved, a deal that hadn't closed, a conversation that hadn't landed right, a creeping sense that the version of himself people admired wasn't quite real. So he kept moving, because movement felt like progress, and progress felt like the answer. He started taking longer holidays, remote places with no signal, mountains, coastlines, ancient cities. And for a while, a few days at a time, it worked. The distance helped. He could breathe again. But somewhere on a flight home from the 3rd or 4th of these trips, he noticed something. The anxiety had never actually left. It had just been waiting, patiently, at the luggage carousel. He'd been trying to outrun something that lived inside him, and no destination was ever going to be far enough. Now think about someone else entirely. Someone who has built nothing that would impress a room. But they posted something online once, something honest, a little vulnerable. And among the dozens of warm responses, there was one comment. Short, dismissive, maybe even cruel. And for 3 days, that was the only thing they could hear. We recognize this, don't we? The way a single stranger's opinion can colonize an entire weekend. The way we hand the keys to our own mood over to people we will never meet, who will forget us by morning, who have no idea who we actually are. We know, rationally, that it's absurd, and yet we do it anyway, over and over, because somewhere underneath, we've made a quiet agreement that the way others see us determines how we get to feel about ourselves. These are two very different people, two very different kinds of suffering, but they share the same root. Both are searching for peace in the wrong direction, outward, into circumstances they can't fully control, into the judgments of people they can't predict. The emperor understood this, not from a place of comfort. He wrote during plagues, during wars, during years of personal loss. And yet he kept returning, in his private pages, to the same insistence: that the chaos outside does not have to become the chaos inside. Men seek retreats for themselves, he wrote, in the country, by the sea, in the hills. But the most reliable refuge is a retreat into your own mind. He wasn't telling us to be indifferent. He wasn't asking us to pretend things don't hurt. He was making a distinction that, once you see it, you can't unsee, between what happens and what you tell yourself about what happens, between the event and the judgment you layer on top of it. Because the event is just a fact, the story you wrap around it. This means I'm failing. This means I don't matter. This means it will always be this way. That part is yours. You wrote it, and you can rewrite it. That's not a call for relentless positivity. It's something harder and more honest than that. It's about the kind of inner life you build, quietly in ordinary moments, so that when difficulty comes, and it always comes, you meet it with something solid underneath you. The man on the flight home doesn't need a better destination. He needs a different question. Not where can I go, but what am I actually running from? The person reading that comment doesn't need thicker skin. They need to remember that the cruelty of a stranger says nothing about their worth. And all of us at some point need to stop waiting for circumstances to arrange themselves into something that finally feels like peace. Because they won't. They never do. They shift and change and disappoint and surprise and disappear. That's what circumstances do. An emperor figured that out 2,000 years ago, alone, in a private journal, in the middle of a life that demanded everything from him. The journal survived. The empire didn't. That tells you something.